Hi, and welcome. Today, we're talking to Dr. Kate Flynn, who is a chiropractor, channel, and healer, and author of Activating Ascension. And we are talking about blocks to ascension. Welcome to Ascension in 5D Chat, where we discuss what is happening with our planet's ascension journey. I am Rachel Chamness. I help light workers connect to their spiritual helpers and light path.
Hi, YouTube world. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here. Thank you, Rachel, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here, and I can't wait to see what new things we uncover and discuss today.
Me too. I'm so glad to have you here. I really think that you're amazing. I love everything that you do, and I really want everyone to know about you and all that you do. So you're a chiropractor, channel, and healer, and you've written this amazing book, Activating Ascension, which I happen to have right here, which you can find on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think you're just the perfect person to be chatting with on this chat show about ascension.
Well, I hope that plays out to your expectations.
All right, well, let's talk about blocks to ascension, what you call the 3 blocks to ascension: fighting, pretending, and trying or forcing.
I think that, if you want to get nitty gritty, you could probably come up with an infinite number of blocks to ascension, but these are what I would say are probably the 3 biggest. Fighting is very popular today. And I even find it interesting that like warrior language is pervasive. Like we're spiritual warriors, or we're fighting for the truth, or whatever it is. And I just really feel like if you're fighting what is, you're not using your resources to create what could be. So you're keeping yourself stuck in a reality that you say you don't want to be in, but yet that's what you're perpetuating by always thinking you have to fight
That's
to
so
prove yourself
true.
right, to prove others wrong, to think
Yeah.
things should be different than what they are.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you're fighting against something, that's not the same as being in a space of attracting things. So that's a
Right.
really big no-no in law of attraction. Instead of
Sure.
fighting against something, you have to see what you are standing for instead. And it's a more positive way to create something than to just fight against something that's too negative, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I also feel like, we're very quick to call that out in other people. And then when the circumstances in our face that it involves us, we kind of forget what we know.
that's so true.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I always say, that people always call me when they have a cold and ask me what they should take, or like, I have the flu, what should I do? And I give them all these ideas of what, not that I'm a naturopath or anything like that, but I give them all the little
Right.
things that I do. And then I get sick and I don't take a single thing because I can't think of one single thing I should take. It's the same thing. It's so easy to give someone else advice, but then we have to remember
Right.
that we also have to follow that advice.
And I think that's the beautiful thing though about being in relationship. Like we're not meant to, maybe we don't have the capacity, maybe that's temporary, but we feel like we should be able to figure everything out for ourselves when we are intuitive, when we're on this path. And that's why relationships are so important. We need to be able to ask somebody else, even if it's just to help keep us on track. Not that they're going to tell us what to do or what we should do, but it will get us back in that space and in that flow.
Do you ever find that when you just start talking about what you are feeling or asking someone exactly like you're saying, that you just start to get all the information yourself? Because I
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes just talking
absolutely.
like brings more channeling in, or I don't think people even realize how much they are channeling from their spirit guides, how much they are getting on a daily basis from their
Hmm.
spirit guides and helpers.
Especially when we're not filtering it out. When
Hmm.
we're not trying to, the information comes.
That's right. So, what about pretending?
Pretending to be something other than you are, or thinking you should be something different than what you are, and also pretending that you're unaffected. Like sometimes, especially in conversations with patients and clients, they'll bring up something from their past and they'll be like, well, I'm all finished with that, that doesn't bother me anymore. And as soon as you get that kind of reaction, that tells you right there, well, that's the thing, um, that's probably not finished. You think you're pretending that it's finished and you're unaffected and that it's done, but there's still more to do. So I remember when I first wrote this book, I did a reading or a book reading at a bookstore, and I took questions afterwards. And I really do feel like we're getting to the point where we can just say with intention, these things happen, they don't define me. I can let them go and move on and be, in alignment, like be in your truth and in your authenticity, and you're absolutely clear the way to move forward. What I see more, I don't think we're there yet. As as a whole, so we need tools, we need things that we can use. And I always say these tools are nothing but to distract your mind so that your heart can do the work. So does a tool work or not work? Is it beneficial, beneficial to you, or is it not? Right. And the beauty is you take forward what you find beneficial and you let go what doesn't. So pretending is like, you're just putting blindfolds on yourself and you're trying to make something true that's not true. And that just makes your way forward more difficult. And I look at it like everything is in a spiral. So it's not you come full circle. It's that you have many opportunities to spiral through the things that have happened to you in your experience. And at the first spiral, you might be like, "Oh, what happened?" or "What was that?" or you know, just kind of shocked. And then the second spiral, you're like, "Well, why is this happening?" And you gain a learning from each spiral. It's when we circle that we start having problems, because then we get stuck in our thoughts and in our thinking, and we're not moving forward.
I love that. That's really a great way to think about it, because often we can have so much self-judgment when something comes back around. So I often talk about the OW, the original wound, something that you
Um,
have fought with and you've conquered, and you're like, that's the past. And then it just comes back again. And you're like, why is this back? Why is this happening? Which is, of course, the question you're supposed to ask. Why is this happening? Instead
right.
of like, why is this happening to me? But what is
Just
the
why is this
purpose?
happening? Yeah.
Yeah.
What is
What's
the
the
purpose? What can I
purpose?
learn?
Exactly. And of course, the way that you're describing it, that's so great, because then in that second time around, you can start to say, it's happening again for a reason, but I'm at a place where I can look at it and say, now this is happening for a reason. Let me find that reason. It is different than it happening the first time, and
Right.
just getting really so much self-judgment and feeling so terrible about what's happening. So it's an opportunity, really, every time you circle around, to look at it from another angle. I really like that
And
idea.
realize that you're different. And in that realization, you create more space to respond to what is happening rather than reacting. Because it's the reacting that keeps us circling. I tell people it's not like, you're not at the Olympics or the Super Bowl. You don't have to react like you're a professional athlete or something. Like life, you think we're kind of conditioned to think that there's no time. Like we have to know right now. We have to have it all figured out. But you actually can just step back and say, I need some space to think about that, and then I can respond versus react from that OW. Now I have original gangster in my head and know what we're talking about.
The
That puts us back
OW.
in that fighting language.
That's true. That's true. I also love the idea of speaking with someone else that you mentioned earlier, because I say that a lot about how we need each other. We really need to come back into these communities. And as light workers, we're helping people all the time, and we need help too. We need each other. It can't be an alone thing. We need to start feeling this community more and more. And I feel that that is a big part of Ascension too, coming into this like fourth dimensional space of love and community.
Absolutely. And like with most things, we polarize. We swing from one end of the pendulum to the other. So when we have that OW, and it usually happens in relationship to somebody else, something somebody did or our parents did or whatever it was. And so we swing way far the other way to say, I don't need anybody. I can do it all by myself. If I want it done right, then I'm going to have to do it, kind of thing. And that moves us right out of harmony and in alignment with Ascension as kind of thinking that all the answers lie outside of you, or that everyone else is responsible for your happiness, your well-being, your whatever it may be.
Yeah. This idea of the pendulum is really interesting because I can do that too, for sure. Go from one end to the other. And the way that you're describing it about outside forces and who's responsible, in the end, of course, we're all responsible of our own actions. And I feel there's another deeper level to that. I sometimes feel like we're too hard on ourselves sometimes. Of course, we've all come to wherever we are because of what we have put out into the world has come back to us and what we expect. And we have to work on our wounds and our shadow work and all of that. But also, sometimes I feel like we over blame ourselves too on the other side of the pendulum because of knowing that we came into this life, like maybe knowing on some level that when we came into this life, we had these soul contracts. Sometimes when like a real trauma has happened, that we are personally responsible for someone doing some horrible action to you because we put it into motion in our soul contract. But
We
people
are
say,
definitely very hard on ourselves. But for me, when I think of that, like my perspective on incarnation into third dimensional reality on planet Earth is that we are here to experience the spectrum, everything. Because when you open it up to everything is okay, even things that aren't okay, like the worst of humanity, right? Is that we are finite pieces of the infinite that come into these bodies to have experiences, period. And if we learn from those experiences, then we spiral. And if we don't, we stay in the circle of third dimensional incarnation. So I look at it as that's an empowering thing for me. Like if this is happening, then on some level I chose it. And if I can come into that space of I chose it, then I can change it. But if it's happening because of an outside force, then that puts me in victim mode. And then I need them to change for me to be okay. And
yeah,
you just don't get any, you don't get anywhere like that because people are not going to be how you think they should be.
that's so true. Sometimes you just have to
Um,
come to a place where you have to say, that's them and that's okay. That doesn't need to affect me. And you can be with family. Sometimes that can be such an emotional journey. I really went through that where it was so important to me what certain people thought about me or how they viewed me, or
mm,
that I was doing what they thought was the right thing, and I had let that rule my life for so long.
mm,
And then suddenly I just realized, but this is their expectation and they aren't perfect. So why am I doing this to myself? And I realized this is not important. That's just what they think is right. It doesn't mean that it's right for me. And that's just them. And I suddenly came to a place where I could actually say, you know what, when she acts like that, that's just her thing. That's just the way she is. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. And it doesn't have
exactly.
to affect me. But it was really hard. I mean, it really took like just this huge aha moment after years and years of trying to separate myself from that.
Family is hard. The people that are
It
closest to us are our biggest mirrors and offer us the biggest opportunities to learn and grow. And sometimes that growth is painful.
I think so.
But I was just listening to somebody, or I saw a quote, I think on the Book of Face or whatever, but it basically said, Mother Teresa said, like, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Like we think we're supposed to do these grand, big things. And it's like people wouldn't be so messed up if families loved each other and figured it
Yes,
out. If you want to impact the world, like people say, oh, I wish there was more peace in the world. Well, are you choosing peace in your life? Because
exactly.
that's the biggest thing you can do to shift the outer experiences to change your own. And you were talking about, like the um, judgment of the self judgment and then the outer judgment. Like normally we judge each other from a point of strength. Like I figured out my finances. It's not rocket science. You should figure out your finances too. Right. And then it's like, well, I figured out how to be in, say healthy and harmonious relationships, and your relationships are a shit show. Like, why can't we judge each other from our weakness? Like, I don't struggle with relationships like, you might, the general you, but I do struggle with, say, the like personal finances. So I can give you the same grace for what you're struggling with as I want you to give me for what I'm struggling with. And then give that gift
Yeah.
to yourself. Like, okay, I haven't figured that out, but I have figured out X, Y, and Z. And so I know that I can figure things out, and give yourself that grace.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. Uh, I'm gonna think about that some more later. I like
Okay.
that. I say that too. What you were saying earlier about if we can just fix ourselves. If everybody just fixes themselves, and of course by fix I mean do the best you can, work on your shadow work or whatever's coming up with. Try to work out your problems. If everyone just did that personal attention, just think how the world would be changed. Every single person would be healed, or on the path to healing.
Right. Because we would be awake. But we want to some extent like an outside force to be responsible. And that makes it challenging to, if you're stuck in that place of whose fault is it? It's not my fault, then you're not in a position to be able to do your work. And I do think, it can get a little tricky. Like, we can get stuck into thinking we have to fix, heal, work through everything, and all of our resources go into that. And we're not putting resources into how we're moving forward. So I think it's got to be a little of this, and then what is it I want to do with my life? What is it I want to create? What brings me joy? What makes me be happy? Because if you're always working on your shadow work, that's just a really hard life.
And I think there is definitely a correlation between the two. I find, especially as light workers, much of what we have really had to work hard on for ourselves can relate to those that we help. So people
Oh
who
yeah.
come to us for advice or help or healing,
Uh,
often you can see your own past in them, or you have some kind of connection. That's why they've
mhm.
come to you unconsciously. You
There's always two sessions going on,
know?
for sure. And that, like, there has to be, or I found it helpful to just have a surrender to that. Like, you can put as many safeguards in place or restrictions on the experience, but you're going to be affected, and it's going to provide you with an opportunity. And if you accept that, then you can move forward. You can have more ease and grace. I think though, the tricky part is to be empathic, which is, empathy is a beautiful, wonderful thing. There's no doubt about it. I think the meaning of empathy gets distorted a lot in healers and light workers, especially. Like, to
You're talking my
to be
language
in
right now.
to be in empathy is to say, wow, I can feel what you're feeling. That's it. But people cross that, they swing all the way to the other end. I put everything on the continuum of infinity, by the way, and heart space. Sweet spot is in the middle, and the two extremes are just as extreme, each just as extreme as the other. They take it too far, or they distort empathy by saying, I feel what you're feeling and I assume responsibility for it. And that is not empathy. That is not empathy, right? That is, and I've looked at the language and definitions of these things, and the opposite of narcissism and empathy usually gets put as an antonym, yeah, for narcissism. And I just don't see it that way. I see, like, the narcissist doesn't want to feel anything or take responsibility for anything at all. So they look for somebody that will feel all the things and take all the responsibility. And I call that more like a garbage dump
Mhm.
than an empath. But it's
Right.
when we assume responsibility for others that we limit our experience and we keep them in a disempowered place. I don't know how we got to that.
No, I love that
Okay.
because of the same idea that I talk about or am talking about. I'm writing a book, so I'm putting it in there. And that is
Okay.
the difference between clairsentience and empathy. And sometimes people find the word I'm an empath is in victimhood. It's like I'm an empath, I'm a sponge, and everything sticks to me and it's horrible and I don't know what to do. Or you can come from a place of power of like, I'm protected, I have my shields up, nothing can come into my energy field without my permission. Yet when I need to, I can use my clairsentience, or like you're saying, the positive side of empathy, to understand my client or my friend or the person that I'm speaking with or trying to help. And that is just a tool instead of just being like, a place of victimhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it's somebody else's fault, you're screwed. You really are.
No, yeah,
Like
you
I
can't
love.
change other people.
Did you read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a? Did you read
No.
that book? Oh, it's
I'll put it
so
on my list.
good. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he basically says, like whose fault it is irrelevant. Like if it's in your lap, it becomes your responsibility. If it's affecting you, then it is your responsibility. And that's the only question that's relevant is, okay, what can I do? What do I need to know? What is this teaching me? Why am I vibrationally aligned with what I'm experiencing? And then you can look at how you can come out of alignment with that and into alignment with what it is you say you want.
Well, sure. I mean,
The
if
book
you
is really
are,
good though.
I'm going to check it out. If you're having this situation that is just constantly affecting you and causing you turmoil, maybe it's not about this external thing, but what you can do for yourself as much as you can do it to prevent that situation from affecting you. And
Right.
that can be hard. And it doesn't always mean cut everyone out of your life and move on, which can be the Sagittarius way, I admit. But and I've done that many times. But maybe it
Right.
can be, how do I come to peace in this situation so that it doesn't affect me? And that, like that example I talked about before. Now I just think, well, that's just the way she thinks, and that's not about me.
Yeah.
That's just about her, and I'm sorry that she thinks that way, that it has to be that way, and that's sad, but I don't think that way. So even if she doesn't mean me, that's just her problem, not mine.
Right.
Whatever it is.
So in that, when people aren't in alignment with where you want to be, it's like I can still love you and appreciate you for who you are. I can forgive you. I can do whatever, but that doesn't mean I have to do it like up close and personal or in your face or continue a close relationship with you. It can be, I'm going to love you, but I'm going to do that from over here.
Yeah, or even forgiving someone for some horrible criminal act against you. It doesn't have to be like,
Right.
I love you. It can just be like, you are a damaged person who has probably had horrible past
Yeah.
experiences. And so, I'm going to stop fighting against it. I'm just
Right.
going to like, let it settle. Okay. I forgive you for being who you are and what you've done to me, but it doesn't mean
Right.
like we're friends.
Exactly.
Like now you can
Exactly.
go away and get out of my
Yeah. Now,
headspace.
like, uh, I wish you all the best. I hope you heal from your traumas and figure it out. And I mean, that's how Nelson Mandela held no resentments against the people who, um, held him in imprisonment for all that time because he knew that the only person he was screwing by doing that would be himself.
That's right. Holding on to
Yeah.
anger and resentment only hurts you. It doesn't hurt the person who wronged you. And then that's where we can really heal,
Right.
This is a great
Yeah.
discussion. I love it.
You were talking about your family member, and it's always a nice opportunity to tune in and say, okay, why is this triggering me?
Hmm.
Is this bringing up something for me? Is this is there opportunity for me to adjust and come into a higher alignment? Is this about, okay, so I had a patient once that was talking about being at a wedding and they saw somebody like maybe the other mother of the bride or groom. I can't remember those details exactly, but they were having a really good time. They were like dancing and laughing and partying and really in the joy of the moment. And this woman just thought that that was just so wrong. It was inappropriate and this and that. And I thought, this poor woman is so prim and proper all the time. She would never in a million years let herself be that person that's just having a really good time and in the moment. So it's interesting to say, okay, why am I feeling this? Is this something for me to change? Which direction on that infinity symbol to help me experience more authenticity,
Yeah.
more joy?
For me, it was really a lot about judgment, about how a person should look and how much that person should weigh, I guess. And
Ooh.
and I was continually hurt by it until I
Oh,
just realized, but that's their idea of what a person should look, and why do they think that?
um,
They think that because they think without a certain look that you have no value, and that in itself is horribly
mm,
sad. And once I realized that that was what was at the core of that, then I just felt bad that they felt that way about themselves, and realized that that has
wow.
nothing to do with me. It's amazing to
Wow.
look deeper. When you look deeper in things like that, you can find forgiveness in unexpected ways.
And benefit from the increased amount of self-love that you send your way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about trying forcing.
So I started this work, I don't know, maybe 13 years ago. I was not one of those people that could, my intuition exploded open at a very specific and particular time in my life. So this whole energy world, Reiki, spirit guides, all this stuff was like, what? I had no idea any of this stuff really existed. And so I started meeting other people through these awakenings. You start to find your tribe, your community, you discuss these things and talk about these things. And it really seemed prevalent that people were just like, a lot of us have had hard lives, um, just terrible things that have happened to us that we've experienced, that we've seen. And it can make you want to force your way out of it. And people would say, oh, that's it. This is my last lifetime. I'm ascending. I'm going to the fifth dimension. I'm done with third dimensional reality. And as soon as you start to hear yourself say those things, that's a big red flag that you are off track. Like there is only one way to get from here to there, and that's to experience what is, to move through it. You can't fight your way out of it. You can't dig underneath of it. It's just once you accept, surrender, put your resources towards creating the reality that you want, that automatically puts you on a track to ascension, whether or not you use that vernacular, whether or not you know it. Maybe you're just like fed up with the life you've been living and you're ready to experience something different. But as soon as you find yourself trying, resisting what is, forcing your way through, you're just slowing yourself down. And I like to go fast. Um, in the beginning, I like to go fast at the expense of everything else. Now I like to go fast in a way that allows me to have ease and grace, and it's a much better experience. I recommend it.
I love that. You're so right. I find myself many times, and friends and clients too, kind of stuck in that. And we can also get stuck, I think, in the whole trying to release or trying to do this shadow work. Like, in one way,
Yeah.
we need to really look at the things and work on them. The other way, trying so hard. I'm trying so hard, and
Right.
it's just not working. If that's the answer, well, maybe the experience is the important part. The
Yeah.
is. And
It's
in
the
sessions, a lot I hear that, the journey, it's always about the journey, that we need to really uh, look at our journey that we're going through, and because that's why we're here. It's this experience that we wanted. So me giving
um,
you all the answers is not going to benefit you in any way.
everybody's got to figure out what's right and true for them, for sure. Yeah.
And
And
also, it might not be ready.
timing, timing is important. That's why sometimes you're just planting seeds, like a person might express interest and you throw out a little seed and maybe they accept it and immediately it takes off. But more often than not, that seed gets planted and then the next person that has that conversation with them waters the seed and the
Mhm.
consciousness slowly starts to come up and they're like, oh yeah, that's totally the way to move forward. Uh, Um, you know, It just goes back to Yoda. Don't try, just do. And the language we use is so important. Like as soon as we say, I have to, or I'm trying to, or really want to, I've noticed every time I say those things, I just push what I want further away because then I put all this pressure on myself. And instead, it's easier to just watch Netflix than deal with the pressure that you just put on yourself. So instead, it's like, I get to. How cool is this that I get to? And it
Yeah.
totally changes the vibration and your perspective on the experience. Like, no, I'm choosing this. I get to do these things. I get to create a new reality.
I love it. I'm going to start using that. I get to
I get
in
to.
my own self-talk. That's perfect. I can totally overwhelm myself.
And then I don't want to do anything.
Right. Then it's just HGTV from here on out for the rest of the day. This fourth dimension of fighting or staying in your heart space is it's a duality,
Right.
and the fighting itself is all about duality. And so we just have to find the side that's staying in our heart space, which is difficult in this life, but necessary. That's kind of how I see also the way to ascension is staying in the now, staying in your heart space, like what you said, coming from a place of compassion, of where you would like people to be compassionate about something that's hard for you,
Yeah.
for people on things that you're good at and they're not good at, to always have compassion for people. And um, all of that is what I would call like the high heart, fourth dimensional chakra, or the high heart space. And I think that's really important too. It just really beautiful. But let's talk a little bit about blocks to intuition, because we had mentioned that before, and I wanted to kind of squeak that in here a little bit, this
Sure.
conversation.
Absolutely. When I was creating Activating Ascension, which is all about transmuting your blocks and then moving forward from there, I realized that not everybody's intuition just exploded open like mine did. And some needed a little more help to get there because the system is intuitively navigated. So I channeled an intuition component to go with that. And it was like, before you get to blocks, before you get to activating your intuition and really using it, it is helpful and beneficial to know what things are stopping it. So things like fear, lack of trust, things that we know, oh yeah, of course that makes sense. And then things like magnesium deficiency can slow down your intuition. Heavy
Oh,
metal toxicity can slow down your intuition, and fluoride, absolutely. And those weren't things that were necessarily on my radar, so I had to do some researching and some looking into that and the studies they have on, rats and calcification of the pineal gland along with the fluoride. And then, you can get down a pretty good rabbit hole when you look at why they fluoridate our water and all that kind of stuff, but
mm-hmm.
that can put you into opposition. It can put you into that place of fighting. So you have to decide if that's going to be more, if that would actually be beneficial. So there are ways out there, you can detoxify your pineal gland. And especially if we're in, like, most things on most people's radar come down to changing my diet, taking a supplement, or exercise, like it's all very physical, real. I can touch that water, so I'm going to drink defluoridated water or unfluoridated. I'm happy to be living in a place right now where they don't fluoridate your water. Like, we use
That's
the
nice.
Berkey filter in the States. But if you are on this path, if you're a healer, if you believe that everything is energy, everything is vibration, then you can use your intention. You can use, we've talked about number activation sequences. You can just pull yourself out of alignment with that fluoride causing calcification of your pineal gland. So if you need to take 10 things and get special water, then by all means do that. I don't like to take a lot of supplements, so I'm like, what else can I do?
Right.
How else can I bring about the change that I want?
I just love everything you just said about intuition, and also not taking too many supplements.
Used to have patients come in with 2 bags. Can you test me on all this? I'm
That
like,
was
if you're
me.
taking oh!
When I came to you, I was taking all these supplements.
I didn't see the bags though.
No, they were in the other room. It's not even bags. It's like just shelves.
Cabinets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just full. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And it's like I've taken all those supplements, forced myself to, there was a time when I was taking like 80 tablets, pills, concoctions, or whatever every day. And at the end of it, I didn't feel any better than I did before I started. So now when I look at issues or things that I would like to see improve or change, it's like, okay, let me break this down into a pie. What percentage of XYZ is going to be solved or transmuted by supplements, by changing my diet, by getting more exercise, drinking more water? And then what is going to be solved by those intangible things that I can't see, changing my thought processes? Like what percentage of this is rooted in my mental body, my spiritual body, my whatever body? Because a lot of times you'll find that 80% or a sizable percentage of it is rooted in another place. So you can take all the supplements, but if you don't address those other things, you're not going to get the changes that you want. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody who came into this work from a nutritional based system that's really geared to having people take as many supplements,
Yes.
as they test for, and I just never felt good about it. I was like, well, you can take 10 supplements, or you can write a letter to your mom about all the shitty things she did, like find a way to be heard in that, and that will unlock your body's natural ability to make improvements and changes on its own. But you would be surprised, like people be like, I'll take the 50 supplements.
Really?
So many people will, because we haven't been taught or had it modeled for us about how to heal these, terrible things happen to our parents. No one taught them how to. It's like, suck it up, be a man, be a woman, put your big girl panties on, whatever it is. And none of that involves talking about how you feel, or beyond talking about how you feel. Because I do think sometimes we can talk about our stuff way too many times.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets imprinted in our DNA, and it makes it
Yeah.
even harder to
Then it
change.
becomes a story.
Yes. And I told a story one time. Well, it was probably the 15th time I told a story with such detail. And I heard my higher self say, this is the last time you get to tell this story. Like, get over yourself. You gotta move forward. It was like, oh, okay.
That happens to me. I'm
But
like
I was
saying
right and
something.
they were wrong. And these are all the reasons why.
Yeah.
But
I hear myself saying things sometimes too, and I'm like, listen to that. That is such a story.
yep.
Stop.
Yeah, stop.
We have to
Like,
catch
that's it.
ourselves. Mhm.
Because your story and your repetition of it
Make it worse.
will keep you stuck.
Mhm.
And
Make
there's
it
no doubt
permanent
about it.
until you stop, until you stop repeating that story. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Exactly.
This has been so cool. And I just want to tell everyone that I just think you're amazing and you've
Oh,
really helped me so much. I just love all the tools in your
mm,
toolbox and how you put together exactly what you were just saying about like between nutrition and supplemental help, but also with emotional work and um, also with just really cool everything. Just, I think you're great.
oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
so much. And I know we how we met was not necessarily like, I don't know about as much about your work as you know about mine, but I started watching your YouTube videos, and it's just so cool what you're putting out in the world. And I heard your voice. I was like, I didn't know she sang.
Thank
What
you.
is all this? So it's so cool to meet and connect with other people doing this kind of work and putting the light out into the world. So thank you, Rachel, for having me.
Thank
This is
you.
great.
Well, check out Dr. Kate Flynn at drkateflynn.com. And if you enjoyed this chat, please like it and subscribe. And I'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you, Rachel. Have a good one.
You too.